Some of you may already know that I have made an Artificer combat guide about 4 months ago, but I consider it outdated right now, because I've gained some experience, and the general quality of said videos is a little off. Just listen to the audio. No, this does not mean that this video is going to be a re-uploaded or more up-to-quality version of the original combat guide. There will be some new stuff, of course. Anyways, we will talk about these 5 chapters: weapons and armor, artificer and allies, scavengers, tactics, and psychology. All the music, recommended mods, yada yada yada, just learn to read, will be in the description. Without further ado, let's get started.
The same way that this is also a mag. They're all mags. Stop saying clips, you look fucking stupid here.
I will separate this chapter into 2 parts: primary weapons and secondary weapons. Primary weapons will be your, well, I don't know, primary killing weapons, spears, grenades, etc. Secondary weapons will be your miscellaneous hazers, flashbangs, and so on. First out of the primaries, we got the spear. Pretty simple. Throw, if it lands, you deal 1.25 damage. It's the second most common weapon in the game, and you will be using it a lot. I mean, there's nothing special about it. Explosive spears. The regular spear's cooler brother. It deals 7 damage, has knockback, and deals a small bit of blast damage in a small radius, which is sometimes enough to kill a regular scavenger. Its explosion can also detonate other nearby explosives. That is pretty much the use of it. Effective against elite scavengers and can cause a domino effect with its explosive nature. Electric spears. Honestly, when fighting against scavengers, it's pretty damn useless. Sure, it is, to some extent, better than a regular spear, but all it does is prevent the scavenger from getting up. And by the time it's done zapping the scavenger, he most likely bled out. So in scavenger combat, it's just a premium regular spear. And for some reason, the scavengers prioritize it over everything else. Grenades. Really effective against grouped up scavengers and scavenger tolls, of course. Grenades are even more effective if your victim, aka the scavenger, is already carrying a grenade. Grenades and spears both have different throw trajectories and ranges. The spear is straighter and has significantly more range, and the grenade curves around corners more and has less range. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you can make more impressive shots by throwing a grenade into an enemy trench or hole, for example. Alright, that's all for the primaries. I know it was just 4 weapons, 3 of which were spears, but hey, those are going to be your primary killing weapons. That's all there is to them. Onto the secondary weapons. Rocks. It isn't very useful except that, it can stun creatures for 1 second. And if your rock lands on the scavenger's head, he drops the weapon he was carrying. Beehives, also known as pain cones. Oh god, I regret mentioning them in my previous combat guide. If you don't know, in the Artificer combat guide, I mentioned pain cones being extremely rare amongst scavengers. A week or so later, they become much more common. And at this point, I don't even know if this is a pure coincidence or am I on a fucking Rainworld developer watch list, if that's even a thing. Either way, it fucking sucks. No, the scavengers don't throw the pain cones. That's not where the problem stems from. The problem is that they can use it as body armor. Not only that, but the fact that once you kill the scavenger with a grenade, the bees are released and it mostly locks you up, not them. It barely even benefits you. Like, I swear to fucking god. Flashbangs. It's pretty difficult to find them. The only places that have them is Shaded Citadel and Subterranean. Flashbangs can blind scavengers up to 10 seconds. During the 10-second time frame, they will not throw anything at you, unless you push them. I would have put this in the primary weapons section if it only would have spawned more often. Hazers, or as I like to call them, lesser flashbangs. Once thrown, they spray a cloud of smoke. It works as a double-edged sword. The scavengers cannot see you, but nor can you see them. Also, if you push a scavenger in the smoke, he will still kill you. They spawn more commonly around the map, including farm arrays, garbage waste, industrial complex, and so on. Cherry bomb. Okay, listen, it's just a dollar store pepper spray. It fucking sucks. Against scavengers, they practically do nothing. Sure, it can ignite nearby explosives, but it only detonates stuff on the last tick? Whatever they call it. The last boom, you know. And the detonation range is so small that the cherry bomb needs to be really close to the explosive. So instead of making fun of the cherry bomb, here's a solution that I thought of in case I'm on a Rainworld developer watch list. Number 1, making the detonation range at least a little bit larger. Number 2, make every single of those booms, I don't know, ticks, ignite the explosives. Number 3, make it jump around more, and by that I mean jump around horizontally. You can jump around in random directions, whatever. I guess I would make it a little more fair. Singularity bombs. Yes, I did mean to include this as a secondary weapon. And yes, it can in fact spawn on elite scavengers, though very rare. If you don't know what does a singularity bomb do, yeah, practically a mini nuke. The only reason I included in the secondary weapons category is because they are very rare and risky. Because, you know, you need to kill an elite scavenger first of all, who is most likely accompanied by a squad, and good luck not throwing the singularity bomb accidentally. On to armor. Gonna keep this short and simple. Certain items such as blue fruits, lanterns, grenades, etc. deflect spears. That means you can either hide behind them or hold them. The best deflectable is, from my testing, glowweed, for its larger hitbox. Since Artificer cannot breathe for shit underwater, I don't recommend going scuba diving, but in subterranean, sub-scavengers carry glowweed with them. So steal it from them. There is only one downside. Or two, if you're one of those Spearmaster mains who complain about not having 2 spears in both hands. First downside, your hungry ass cannot pick up other items properly. Try it, you'll see. Second downside, for the Spearmaster mains, the deflectable takes up 1 slot in your arm, which is kind of a big deal. You can carry a grenade in that hand, or a rock, or a spore puff, or a cherry bomb.
Hey, editing Artificer here. I forgot to mention that you can use scavenger corpses, or really any corpse, as cover, and also counts as armor. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
What makes me a good demo man? If I were a bad demo man, I wouldn't be sitting here discussing it with you now, would I?
This chapter is going to be somewhat shorter than the other chapters, because there isn't much to say about Artificer. This is just going to be some common knowledge so we could stay on the same page when we'll be discussing tactics. That's where the combat comes in. Alright, let's get into it. Artificer, if you somehow didn't know, can propel herself mid-air and stun other creatures. For simplicity's sake, we will call these explosive jumps and concussive blasts. Artificer has a total of 10 charges. Explosive jumps cost 1 charge, while the concussive blast costs 1.5 charge. Explosive jumps are performed by pressing grab and jump both at the same time, while mid-air. After 6 consecutive explosive jumps, you are stunned, and after 9, you die. Explosive jump also works as a backflip. So yes, you can throw spears up and down. It's pretty useful when you need to reach certain spots or get out of risky situations or even dodge spears. Basically, lets you be an athletic, nimble fucker. The concussive blast is performed by pressing grab, jump, and down all at the same time. After 4 consecutive concussive blasts, you get stunned and killed after 7. The concussive blast lets you stun creatures up to 2 seconds and parry thrown objects with it. We'll talk about the parry mechanism later. On top of those 2 abilities, Artificer has explosion resistance, increased movement speed, increased spear damage. She can maul stunned creatures, with the only exception being small creatures that do not need to be stunned. Mauling honestly is barely useful, more of a quality of life thing, in case you somehow don't have a spear with you. Lastly, Artificer can craft items. Spears into explosive spears, rocks into grenades, bat nips into cherry bombs, and flashbangs into lanterns. So what are the downsides? Well, you cannot breathe underwater and scavengers absolutely fucking hate you. Which is, why I am making this guide in the first place. I won't delve deeper into Artificer's combat and movement, but the tactics chapter will explain it more thoroughly. For now, let's talk about the Artificer's allies. By allies, I mainly mean lizards, vultures, and centipedes. Basically creatures that can harm scavengers. Lizards, in general, are meant to be distractions, something to waste the scavenger's time. Red lizards, on the other hand, are more meant for actual murder. If you plan on taming one, go ahead. If you're going to tame it, protect it from explosive spears at all costs. Grenades are fine, it will be the equivalent of 2 spears for him. The explosive spears, oh boy. Vultures are, you guessed it, for being a distraction, and a meat shield. It's fine if one dies, it's just going to be cover for you to hide behind. They can also be pretty nice for wasting the scavenger's explosives. Centipedes, especially the red centipedes, are meant to cause chaos, especially in a scavenger hall. The centipedes can clear the entire scavenger hall, and when it's time for you to come out, you can finish off the centipede that did its work. There are other creatures that serve a purpose, but I won't delve too deeper into this chapter. Just know that any creature can be used to your advantage.
If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles.
We already talked about who you're going to play as and who are going to be your allies. Now let's talk about your foes. They are going to be your enemy number 1. God, I feel so retarded just by saying that. Scavengers can typically survive a spear hit, but if hit to the head, they immediately get killed. Same applies to elite scavengers, except that they can survive
3.
spear hits to the body. We'll talk about them later. For now, let's focus on regular scavengers. Anyways, you should always check if you have actually killed the scavenger. There are 2 ways of recognizing if the scavenger is dead. Either his eyes are closed or he dropped all of his weapons. Of course, not to mention that you just clearly saw his head getting pinched by your spear or grenade. Positive scavenger attributes. Scavengers can throw spears on a wider angle, can carry up to 5 spears, have a chance to spawn in with explosives of any kind, and usually wander around in packs. Awesome. Now on to the negatives. 1. They're stupid. 2. They're way too stupid and sometimes wander into exploding explosive spears. 3. They're stupid. Now spear wind-up time that I will simply call reaction time. They first raise their spears and only then they throw it. Keep in mind that all scavengers will have different reaction times and the reaction time increases the further you are from them. But there is one thing that bypasses the reaction time. For instance, there is a vulture that the scavenger is fighting. He has his spear raised, but he isn't throwing it. Worst thing he can do right now is attack him. If you're in the scavenger's line of sight, he will instead throw the spear at you instantly, no matter what. On to scavenger personality traits. Yes, this is how realistic this game can get. Scavengers have personalities. There are 6 personality traits: aggression, bravery, energy, nervousness, sympathy, and dominance. Keep in mind that one scavenger will not have 100% at one trait. Instead, he will have something like 34% aggression, 30% bravery, 15% energy, 6% nervousness, blah. These percentages will vary from scavenger to scavenger. By the way, you can skip this part because the personality traits don't affect the combat too much. Aggression. They are more likely to dodge, have greater accuracy and reaction time, and are more likely to spawn with explosives. They can be separated from their long teeth and narrow necks. Bravery. They have greater blocking skills, are less likely to flee the battlefield, and are more likely to be further away from the back leader. They can be pretty nice when dealing with scavenger skill squads, because you can pick them off from behind. But when it comes to scavenger trolls, they are annoying because of their blocking skills. Great way to counter it is by throwing a rock and then throwing a spear, or just out-spearing him. Energy. They possess greater accuracy in reaction time, blocking skills, and movement speed. They are the easiest to separate. They are more likely to be skinny, have increased eye slant, and usually have yellow eyes. Eye slant, for all my English-speaking viewers, means eye width. Nervousness. They have increased movement speed outside of combat, keep that in mind. They tend to move around more and look at empty spots a lot more. There's nothing special to them, except they're more scared. Sympathy. They really have nothing special to them either. They're just the weaker scavengers. They have large, wide eyes with distinct pupils. Dominance. Do know that scavengers with high dominance tend to be more aggressive, more energetic, and more brave, because those traits increase dominance. Dominant scavengers are usually the pack leaders. Does this mean anything? No. It's your choice if you want to kill them first or not. Anyways, they are more likely to spawn with spears and explosives in general. You can separate them from their large antlers, long back frills, and fatter bodies. Right, that's all with regular scavengers. Time to move on to the elites. As the name suggests, they are stronger, faster, and overall better version of the scavenger. Take your boring ass scavenger and up the stats by 1.5 and give him an electric spear because that's cool. And why not give him the ability to jump around? Cause fuck it. Actually, why summon the electric spear when you can give him a small chance to spawn with a fucking 1. Elite scavengers have more health. 2. Elite scavengers have a wider throw angle. 3. Elite scavengers spawn with electric spears and in rare instances with singularity bombs. 4. Elite scavengers tend to wander away from the pack, unlike regular scavengers who love to stay close to each other. 5. Elite scavengers' reaction time is faster, like much faster than regular scavenger. If you miss your spear throw, you're more likely to be dead. 6. Elite scavengers can perform something called a leap. During that leap, their throw angle is slightly increased, and the reaction time is practically set to 0. If you see him getting ready to leap, then you should also get to cover, or parry, or pray. Though I recommend to get to cover, or pray. 7. Elite scavengers have a significantly higher chance to spawn during night patrols, usually overwhelming regular scavengers. That's the basics of the elite scavengers explained. But how do you counter them? First, we will assume that the elite scavenger is alone and is not aided by other scavengers and elite scavengers alike. This scenario is the most common since elite scavengers tend to wander away from their pack, and this scenario will be divided into 2 parts, stealth and spotted. So what do you do when you saw an elite scavenger but he hasn't seen you yet? Simple answer is throw a grenade. I'm not kidding. It's always worth wasting a grenade for an elite scavenger. But okay, let's be more realistic. You are not a mass murderer with 50 grenades shoved up. I know, very sad. Anyways, let's just say you have a spear. Only a spear. Well, the smart move is to just sneak up to him and wait for him to look away, then stab him. Or you can quit being a coward and openly invite him to a duel. Now what do you do when you're spotted? And by spotted, I mean ambushed. I mean, you did not expect an elite scavenger to fly towards you. Throw a grenade. Or if you don't have one, seek cover immediately. He lands somewhere close to you, then just use your concussive blast. That's all about elite scavengers. Time to talk about King Scavenger. King Scavenger sits upon his throne in Metropolis, acting as the first, might I add, and final boss for the Artificer's campaign. And to put it bluntly, it's just a elite scavenger with 4 centipede armor plates. So what's new to him? Well, while those armor plates are on, explosives will not deal extra damage. Instead, they will chip one of the armor plates off. Doesn't matter if it was a spear, an explosive spear, or a grenade, will always remove only 1 armor plate. On top of that, the King Scavenger cannot be stunned. Right, that's pretty much it. I mean, he is pretty easy to deal with, so
If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight. Sun Tzu said that, and I'd say he knows a little more about fighting than you do, pal, because he invented it. And then he perfected it so that no living man could best him in the Ring of Honor.
The original Artificer combat guide, I separated the chapter into two, skirmishes and scavenger duels, while skirmishes having its own two subparts. I was correct at the time and I still am, but the whole chapter is going to need a complete revamp. Also, just to get this out of the way, I will not cover the scavenger duels in this video, simply because it would take too long to explain all the different strategies. I might just do that in another video. So how am I going to explain this chapter? First of all, I want you to realize that Artificer combat is like a martial art. Seriously, the more you'll play, the more you'll understand that there are repetitive moves. The defense-offense dynamic will stay, except I'm not going to call them fighting styles. Polarity between defense and offense can be interpreted as a bar, a line where said moves rest upon. And this is where I am going to talk about parrying. First, I will talk about the moves. The list of moves will go from the easiest to perform to the most difficult. Starting off with Concussive Blast and Spear. You already know how to perform a Concussive Blast and you know how to throw a spear. There are only two alternatives, Crouch Blasts and Air Blasts. Depending on the situation, I recommend mainly using Mid-Air Concussive Blast. It grants more mobility and retains your momentum. Cover Jumping. While in a state of crouching, you can press jump and your slugcat will do that. Now combine it with throwing a spear. That's it. It's pretty useful when you're taking cover and you see a scavenger in your line of sight. There's a more complicated yet safer method that doesn't require the use of the jump. Instead of using the jump button, quickly press up and down. Just don't spam the cover jumping technique too much, or else scavenger might catch up and throw a spear faster than you could duck behind cover. Self-destruction. Imagine a situation. Scavengers are rapidly closing in on you from both sides. You cannot escape because you'll just die. If you try your traditional spear throwing, it will not work. But you do have a grenade in your hand. Well, there's nothing much you can do except throw the grenade. Self-destruction is a great and easy way to escape tense situations. Please don't take any of this out of context. Of course, this will leave you vulnerable for about 10 seconds, which unaffected scavengers can just walk up to you and kill you. But hey, you tell me which is riskier. Risking your life or risking your life but with more chances on your side. Fast pole throwing. This one is a little more complicated to explain. Anyways, you know how scavengers have a wider throw angle, right? So if you try regularly climbing the pole and then throwing the spear, it will not work, because they're just going to be faster than you. So what you can do is press jump when you're about to enter his line of sight. Keep in mind that you will have to throw it a little earlier, or else your spear will go too high up. Now on the topic of climbing poles, I really recommend to learn the fast pole climbing. It will really help you with dodging incoming spears. Explosives down spear. There are two ways to perform this move. One is easier, one is harder. The first one is when you have a height advantage. The scavenger is right below you. It's pretty simple. Just do an explosive jump and throw the spear down. The second variation is when you don't have necessarily the height advantage. The scavenger is somewhat in front of you. The general idea is for you to perform an explosive jump towards the scavenger and time your throw. This variation comes with another variation itself. With this variation of the variation, let's just call it, you don't try to hit the scavenger from above, rather you first land and then you stab him. Yes, it is easier but more riskier, and you can get stabbed by the same scavenger, though very unlikely, and it gives you less time to react to other nearby scavengers. Whip throw. Let me tell you, it's pretty much useless unless you need to get an extremely tight angle. To perform this move, you have to know how to do a whiplash. If you don't know how to do it, I'm not gonna mind explaining it. Basically, you have to perform a whiplash and throw the spear at the same time. Though again, it's pretty much useless except for certain moments. But I like including it because if you kill a scavenger like that, you're a certified cool artificer gamer. On parrying. Finally, I will divide parrying into two parts, charge full and charge less. Charge full, I mean it requires you to use a charge, aka perform explosive jumps and concussive blasts. And charge less, I don't think I need to explain, just random dodges or regular spear parries. Firstly, charge full parries. I will be talking mostly about the concussive blast and then the explosive jumping. As I said, you can parry thrown objects, and I do mean any thrown object. Spears, explosive spears, grenades, rocks, etc. When is the most optimal time to parry? I'll explain later. Charge less. I'm going to keep it short and tell you that pretty much everything that I've mentioned in the chargeful parry section will apply to chargeless parries, but on a lesser scale. Chargeless parries and dodges are spear parries in your good old down button. Spear parries are self-explanatory. You throw your spear to parry an incoming projectile. Dodges, on the other hand, come into two flavors, depending where the enemy is. The scavenger is somewhat above you or right in front of you, you will crouch. If he is somewhat below you, you will jump. That's all. As I said, there's nothing much to chargeless parries and dodges, but I'm just gonna call them chargeless parries for simplicity. Alright, so what is the most optimal time to parry? Well, there are two ways I recommend to parry. Prediction and ear parries. Prediction is straightforward. Once you feel like the scavenger is going to throw his spear, you parry. Ear parries, on the other hand, require you to actively listen for incoming spears. Once you hear the parry. Prediction works more effectively when you are in close quarters combat, and ear parries in medium to long ranges. One last thing before I finish this chapter on where your eyes should focus. I know. Listen, just bear with me. I know I already sound like a magician pulling bullshit out of my magic top hat, but bear with me. The next chapter is going to be crazier, you'll see. There are two ways to play as Artificer. First way is to focus on your surroundings. That being terrain, creatures, where are the scavengers, are they carrying, how many of them are there, and what are their personality traits. I recommend the newer players to play like that, till they get used to it and move on to the second wave, which is focusing on your slug cat. Now, what do I mean? Well, let's just say you've got a general idea on where your opponents are. You really need to know what are they carrying and who they are? No. And from my testing, focusing on your slug cat will help you with pairing and timing in general. Finally, we arrive at our last chapter. So what's it gonna be? Well, I don't know where you're here, but if you didn't know, this game, especially Artificer's campaign, can get really irritating. So controlling yourself might be the best tool to fighting scavengers. Might. You see, at this point, it's like, hey kids, do you know what I'm gonna be talking about today? No. Well, me neither. Most of these will be theories, something I myself cannot confirm. So, why did I include this chapter into the guide? To share some of these theories, in case there are any people willing enough to experiment them themselves. These theories will not follow any order, and theories that I doubt are true are going to be marked as yellow. Music. Yes, music. If you have any good songs to listen to, go ahead. There are two stages of music. One that goes, and the other, basically, the louder the music, the higher the morale boost you will get. If you don't know what I mean by morale boost, it will just go into an attitude of fuck we all. Yeah, that's a good way to interpret it. The only downside being that you cannot really rely on ear parries. I mean, it is the only downside if we don't mention all the health concerns. Mind exhaustion. Pretty simple. It is also why we need sleep. You get more tired throughout the day. Your mind isn't as sharp as it was in the morning. Muscle memory. This one's kinda contradicts my previous theory. So you know muscle memory, right? Where you do certain action so many times that you do certain action faster and more efficiently. So my theory is that the muscle memory kicks in and becomes most effective at around a certain time it usually does that same action. If you still don't understand, I'll explain it in caveman terms. Me kill scav at 1 PM. Later. Me kill scav at 1 PM. Later. Me kill scav at 1 PM. But better. Later. Me kill scav at 5 PM. Where did better go? Panic control. Controlling your mind and keeping it calm in the most tense situations is the best trait anyone, in anywhere I mean, could wish for, which is why we must strive towards it. Sanity control. This one is as important as panic control. Getting mad and irritated is really bad, because then you lose reason and let your emotions take over, and you get the point. Anger will make you do more stupid things, in turn making you more mad. One suggestion: go do some push-ups. Your psychological state and your physical state work together. If stress goes up, the best way to quickly reduce it is by doing physical exercises. And lastly, destruction of mind. This sort of opposes every other theory. Said that you should keep yourself together, and now I am saying that you should go fucking insane. I mean, and I swear that as weird as it sounds, I recommend it to the older and more experienced artificers if they feel like they've done some mistakes while learning Artificer. As I see it, you cannot build skyscrapers over wooden sheds. No, the wooden shed must be demolished and then you may build your skyscraper. Before I end this video, I want to give a shout out to Proxima, who wanted to help me finish this guy quicker by making a thumbnail for this video. As you can see, I rejected it because I want to keep my art style for my video thumbnails. So as a way to pay respects, I am putting his efforts here. Other than that, all the mods and music will be in the description. I hope you found this guide useful. If you feel like I missed something, feel free to comment down below. Oh yeah, please subscribe.